All right, dear friends, glad to meet you all at Feygin Live. It's Friday, 6th of May, 22 p.m. and 3 minutes in Moscow and Kiev, day 72. We're doing another cast with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to see you. Likewise. Is it sort of a holiday mood today? I always have a good mood, even when I'm tired, and I'm kind of tired today, but my mood is good. All right, we ask everyone who are watching us live, about 170,000 people, share links. Especially if you're in Russia, send it through messengers. That really works. And of course, subscribe to Feygin Live and Olexiy Arestovych. If you're watching that in English, subscribe to the Privateer station, leave your likes. That helps YouTube to promote the video to more people. All right, let's start with the main question. Why did you shoot Admiral Makarov ship? Nobody shot it. We don't have anything verified. I have a lot of messages about it. There are a lot of different information pieces that they throw at us, and people try to post it right away, and then they find themselves in very uncomfortable waters, even very respectable Western news channels. So right now we do not have any official confirmation from the Ukrainian government. We're still verifying details. So Moscow, remember how many days we're looking into it? 4 days? No, at least 2 days to realize that it actually happened. So right now we do not have that. And I should prepare y'all for the boring piece of news that we may not have sunk anyone, but maybe we have. I'm not ready to confirm it, and I would not advise anyone to rush with a happy statement that it is sunk. But was it shot at? This is a piece of information we cannot share. This is a good piece of information, but we're not confirming any shooting. So in Ukraine, it's a government secret. In Ukraine, we only have that kind. In Russia, there is a whole other set of secrets. There's a military, government, etc. Yeah, we're not. So, like in the old joke, dear Colonel, please give me a new military secret because I've already spilled the previous one. Any changes on the front? Another question? Mark, you do want to put me in jail, right? At the end of all this event. You always want me to share something new, something secretive with us. I'll actually share something today. Okay. On the east, let's start from the positive side. Our troops are happily moving in the direction to the north of Kharkiv and freeing up to 5 little villages, even got a bit of equipment, and pushed some people out from the opposite side. It's not the counteroffensive, we discussed that yesterday. It is more of a tactical character, but when these tactical level events accumulate, they sometimes graduate into the operative level. So there might be operative success there in case of more favorable advancement. Also, our troops are moving to the east of Kharkiv. No details on that, but we can confirm the north. Rubezhne and Popasna, it's a little more difficult in the last 24 hours, according to the statement of a local administration. Severodonetsk is being threatened. Rubezhne is seriously threatened by Russian forces. Popasna is pretty much leveled, and it's who owns it is really a theoretical question. There is not much of it left. Others saying it's 50-50, and the third are saying let's withdraw to the next level of defense, and this village is no more anyway. It appears that Russian command had finally become a little more modest and is aiming at much smaller Rubezhnaya, Popasnaya, and Severodonetsk instead of a bigger pincer movement on the overall eastern direction. So they're just concentrating on the minor advancements to try to report that at least they freed the Lugansk Oblast by the 9th of May, but I'm suspecting they will not be able to pull this off, even though they're really trying. In general, there's a lot of artillery fighting. They're shooting us, we're shooting them. Avdiivka, they cannot capture. DNR mobilized units just getting destroyed at the approach to that place. So, Daniela Master, that stone flower is not coming out. Mariupol. The vehicle that was supposed to evacuate the refugees, we actually posted video that it was hit with a missile. There actually were some casualties and victims of that attack. Russians confirmed that 50 people were evacuated. I would be very careful with their numbers. Overall, we evacuated probably about 500 during the conflict from Azovstal, and they're still using tanks, artillery, ship, and air missile strikes on the factory. As for Zaporozhye, firefights are going. There is a bunch of videos from our side showing that we have hit some of their vehicles. That only means that they tried to develop some offensive on that front, and apparently they failed. In the Krivorozhye region, it's mostly artillery fights, and there are some heroes going from both sides of the front and attacking each other. Kiev had a few air alarms in the morning, and there were more at night, although I'm pretty tired, so I think there were some air raid alarms at night, sirens going off, but I would not vouch for that. All right, general picture is kind of clear. I guess we can summarize that there is no major offensive, major advancement from the Russian side. Yeah, no, they're not having a good hand at the moment. Right, we're just trying to understand what are they going for and if they may achieve anything. So, speaking of Kharkov, for example, our counter-offensive actions probably successful enough for a reason that Russians withdrew some of their troops to the center because they are really running out of troops there. So they pulled some of the resources to Izum and Lugansk district, basically giving up Kharkov and that area to Ukraine, that they understand there's no way for them to hold it or to surround it. So they're withdrawing the last of their forces and throwing near Lugansk and Donetsk. They're throwing everything there, and I think that's where the task is for them politically. All right, we have 310,000 people watching us live. I have a request. I understand it's Friday, many of you are tired, getting ready for the weekend. Please subscribe to our channels. You know, somebody sent me a meme from Lord of the Rings. Arwen is asking her dad, hey, open the box. You promised me to show some samples of elven magic. Well, listen, I'm telling everyone that there's nothing happening on the border of Gondor and Rohan, but we have about 1 million views on our Rivendell channels daily. Yeah, that's a good one. These views, they basically confirm that whatever we're doing here is important, that it matters and people care. Subscribe and please share links. It really helps. It really helps to promote it. Look, I listened to some of the intercepts that Security Service of Ukraine published. I thought some of them are pretty peculiar. Maybe you can comment on some of them. I did not have time to listen to some of them today, but it's okay. I listened to probably one or two on my channel. You know, I got a lot of people sending me stuff. So I was scrolling the feed, and there was one guy talking to his wife, and he's saying, we're being destroyed here, and the commander is saying, no retreat. And he's telling her, what, you dummy? Commanders, of course they're not with us. They're further out. So tell us more. Is it true that the commanders are not with their troops? Yeah, according to our lists. Generals, colonels, majors, they're very often not there. Even battalion commanders usually keep about a mile or two further out from the front, just in case, so there are other targets. And there are those commanders that wanted to be closer to the front. I think they already ran out near Izum and near Kiev. So, for example, what is Izum direction? It's a very serious artillery fight and airstrikes on both sides. That's the heavy fighting you would not want on your enemy, actually. You kind of would, but yeah. So, Russian side is losing more than Ukrainian side is losing there. And there are a lot of military nuance that civilians usually do not get, not understand. So, number one, when somebody is wounded, there is a bit of a movement in the front because somebody would usually step up and say, oh, you know what, I'll come up and I'll carry the wounded back to the medical. You know why? Because, of course, that's a legal way to leave the front, leave the fighting. And you know where the official commander's position is? According to the military regulation, his position should be the most convenient and comfortable for his management of the troops. If it is behind the enemy lines, that is behind the enemy lines. But, on the contrary, it can be 7 miles behind their own troops, or 12 miles behind their own troops. So, you know, they're using it. I'm not really joking at Russian officers. They're strong in some things. One of their strong sides is that they can push their troops forward. They do not necessarily partake in that, but they actually manage to continue pushing their troops. And in some of the fights, because it is, for example, a difficult geographical region, a lot of forests and stuff, they may be losing some of that command if they're too close to the front, because the observations are limited. Usually the commander of a platoon is the last commander who actually sees the battlefront with his own eyes. And, it could be just poor command for that specific soldier who was talking, but in general, Russian commanders are performing their duties. Another thing that command sometimes creates conditions where it's impossible to complete the tasks set in front of them, even at the price of high casualties. But in general, Russian commanders and soldiers have capability of advancing and pushing forward, regardless of how they do that. Okay. Very often people cite Christogrozhev, who is getting some data. Well, we don't know, right? Where is he getting his data from? But he is getting some. And he says that, I think he was having an interview with Gordon. Dmitry Gordon was recording his interview with him, and it became pretty viral. He said there is resistance from the Russian lower commanders and even generals to a degree against achieving the political goals set in front of them, because they disagree about really dying for the goals that there's no way to achieve. And that sounds like it's more of a political grading of the situation, of different data sets that he's getting, perhaps some from breaking into emails or other things. Is that sort of a sabotage? What is a good word for that? I think we talked about that about 4 weeks ago. I can repeat it again, that Grozhev is talking about the result. You and me are talking in the forecasting way. So we did discuss that the amount of troops they had was not enough to complete the task. So what does a military person do when he is given a task he cannot achieve? It's an Italian strike, where he pretends that he works. And another thing is about their troops. It's very different. Some of them go in and they all die in a day or two. Others who were near Kiev before, or who actually have a better picture of the whole front, they're not really in a hurry to die. They keep fighting from afar, they're very careful, then they maintain their numbers. Because many of them do understand that whatever they're doing is stupid, and it shouldn't be done. Not because they're dispirited about the war, but because they also could be just understanding that you don't waste your troops by sending them into stupid attacks. You actually preserve them for a better opportunity. So that share of sabotage was almost planned or input from the beginning. It existed. And I'm thinking right now, since Russians are trying to approach certain dates, that amount of sabotage is also increasing as a pushback. And there are interesting things happening to them. So there is a British missile called Brimstone. It's usually anti-ship, but it actually can work on the land as well. It's kind of like American Hellfire. Flies far and reliably and has a good boom. So it was used in on one of the battlefields near Izum. People are reporting that there are more American howitzers, and I would suspect Russian troops are becoming sadder and sadder day by day, because we have new resources, more colorful resources that are working on them. So if anything, this does not project additional motivation for them to advance and to carry on with the political tasks. So I would not be surprised if they're sabotaging more orders. So I'm thinking that could be related to that certain phase in the fight where the troops are tired and they realize there is no reason to continue the offensive and continue fighting. Not just that. Moral is one thing, but it could be just the body just gives up. I can tell you a little story from my experience. A few years ago, in a group that was going on the flank of the military, and we blew up on landmine. 2 dead, 2 wounded. I'm slightly wounded, and I was accused that I was an agent of Russia who led their fighters to die. So the thing is, I was one of those who actually walked that path for 4 times, going to and from. And last time I actually went back, came back and picked everything and brought back. And every military person knows that when the enemy is about 350 meters afar, it's not a simple task. So on the 3rd walk, I got lost a little. I was pulling some of the sniper rifles and I was following my group and I was lagging behind and I was tired and even adrenaline was running out. So I got out of the ravine and I looked around to see where am I. And it was hard to tell because if it is I was crawling there between the mines and it's our mines. On our side there are warnings where they are, but I'm already inside, it's hard to tell. So I'm there in the clay area, which is kind of whitish, so it's easy to see me, especially if they have any aerial investigation. I realized that if anybody noticed me, I'll be gone. I turn my head and I see that there is a minefield between me and them, and I see my soldiers further behind that minefield, maybe 100 meters, and they're showing me, no, don't go there, you'll get exploded, you'll die on the minefield. And I am lying there, I'm thinking, I need to move, so I'm picking motivations. I'm thinking, wife, no, I won't move. Kids, no. Motherland, no. Students, no. I was so tired that nothing motivated me. I was so tired that I just got up and went through the minefield. I can only remember my soldiers looking at me with the eyes looking like big dollar coins. So surprised, and somehow I did not die. I did not explode on those mines. Probably God still had a plan for me. And evacuation group was there to help us get out. And we still had more things to pull away from the advanced forepost. So I went there for the 4th time with my group, and we pulled more things out. That time I did not get lost, but I still was there, one of 2 people who's closing the ranks. And there was like a steel wheel of Ukrainian intel specialist. And I don't know how I did it. It was really just a will and kind of tiredness in general. That's a good example of it. And imagine somebody who, and that's just one episode, imagine somebody who is in that situation for 50 days. The thing is that everybody who is fighting for a while, there is a huge load, moral and physical, on their shoulders. And sometimes people just run out of energy. People who have not been in these conditions do not know how it is to be so depleted. Not a single personal command from Putin or Gerasimov or anyone would push them forward. And that's why there is a norm, 2 weeks on the front, and then you get pulled back, and you take some time to recover, get some R&R before being thrown in again. And that's why it's needed. It's important. So in the situations like this, there is no major skirmish fighting or major close quarter fighting. It's really just artillery duels, where before people were running for like 300 yards to flank the enemy and hit them from a side. These days they maybe walk or crawl 30 meters and then sit down and wait. And you can push yourself on adrenaline for a while, but after that abuse, people who use it, they know that after that there comes a down, and you do not want to do anything. You just sit down and kind of do nothing. And these are the fights right now. This is what's happening on the front on both sides, our side and their side. The only movement and the only action there is actually done not by the troops already there, but by the reserves being thrown in. They're the ones who are actually doing a little bit of movement. But even that is being depleted. So regardless, the fighting will subside. That's where those 2-3 weeks that I always keep talking about were coming from. That's the limit. It cannot continue for much longer, because they will either need some super new reserves or it will gradually grind down to a halt. All right, let's monitor that. Psychologically, that's an understandable question. We have 420,000 people watching us. We're at about 26 minutes live. Let's touch upon 2 more subjects, which I think are pretty interesting. First, as well as I understand, Zelensky announced that he's waiting for Germans, for Scholz, to come see him on the 9th. And I understand the German side did not respond yet. Is that true? Is there anything we comment about? Yeah, I think it's true, and we need to wait. I'd wait for Germans to respond. And the second invitation came to Steinmeier, and I understand that Steinmeier is not refusing that. Do you think that can help to push things again? Because as far as I understand, German heavy weaponry is being delayed again. So on one hand, Germans said today that they're supplying Panzerhowitzer to us. They don't have too many of them, and it's a really good weapon for fighting. It actually was published in the open sources, so I'm still hesitant, but we'll see to announce actual numbers, but we'll see what the press will publish. So it's a complex situation. We'll see how it unfolds. They're helping, and then they have their limitations. The second is negotiations. We talked about them in light of Mariupol and other things, and that the fact that Ukrainian side pretty much said that if you're not following certain protocols, we'll just not converse with you. We'll just give up on the negotiations. At the same time, Moscow was saying that Ukrainian side is not too forthcoming, that we're trying to negotiate, and even now, right now, they're actually acknowledging that Ukraine is not too giddy about negotiations. But you remember what Russians did? They were using negotiations for an open window to maintain a certain visage in front of the Western allies of Ukraine. And whenever the negotiations are failing and there's nothing happening, there's no reason to maintain that. The condition for negotiations, according to the diplomatic conventions, is the absence or the lack of situations on the front that are counterproductive to negotiations. And right now, there's a ton of counterproductive things happening. So the value of these negotiations is zero. And its main achievement was Istanbul Agreement, after which we discovered Bucha. And then there was a statement from David Arhamia to quit negotiations, and I think the only reason why we stayed in it is that the party of peace in Kremlin that was insisting on negotiations, we needed to keep pushing at least some calm lines between us to keep open. Now, let me also recall the emotional aspect of things. I recall how President addressed that negotiation. He basically said something similar to, let's leave only 2 articles in our negotiations. Get the F out of our land, and that's one. And number 2, get the F out immediately, right now. So maybe later negotiations will mean something in terms of peaceful regulations, but right now everything is being decided on the battlefront, and President already said that if you're continuing to destroy Azov Steel, there'll be no negotiations with you. All right, tell me one more thing. Maybe now, after a while, you can share. The activity of Roman Abramovich, I think, can understand his motivation. Do you think he was active? He was affecting Kiev? Well, regarding Abramovich, I'd rely on the words of Michael Podolyak, who said that Abramovich is effective. And I would not comment on that further because I've heard other opinions that he can be greedy and playing his own games. But commenting the commenter, I want to say that Podolyak did admit that that guy was effective. I know Abramovich wanted to avoid some of the sanctions. I think he avoided American, but he's still under some sanctions from other allies. By the way, tomorrow is J7, so they will be discussing more on the sanctions. They'll be personal and sectoral, and so, do you think that there'll be any positive outcome from that meeting, from the G7? Andrei Alexandrovich and a couple more people will really push our agenda. And I know that Russia authorities are really upset and of the fact that they're not partaking in it on the G7 summit, and they're trying to find ways to at least have a representative or do something or draw some attention to themselves. But no, that's not going to happen this time. We're about 36 minutes live, 440,000 people watching us. I think tomorrow is Saturday? Mark, let's admit it. Let's just admit to everybody, we bored people to death. They're tired of us. We had 509 and now we have 440. Yeah, come on, it's Friday. After getting such a huge moral blow, I don't think I'll be able to come live tomorrow. Well, come on, that's the whole other view on the things. The war keeps going and going and going, and people do like some things when they're happening. Yeah, that's what we talked about. The war goes into a routine phase, and it will continue for at least a couple months of that small sensations or probably nothing happening. Although black swans will happen from time to time, like we sunk the ship, we did not sink the ship. Some things will be true, some things are not. But and you'll want to confirm certain events or run with them happily, but you do need to actually go and confirm that in detail via other channels before you do that. And that'll be a pretty boring situation when two sides are just grinding at it, and our main comment would be, well, there is not really much to discuss, and there were no changes. And as somebody said, the devil is in the details and the God is in the quality of those details, in the precision of them. So I would suggest just keep watching us. You probably won't get that data anywhere besides us, and they can always go to watch and listen to other things, even your briefings or other interviews and other things happening. But it's on that channel where we actually offer people the concentrated data from the front. And it's more of a diary. That's why it's important. We are writing them daily. It's the story of this war, which is not recorded in all details, but it does show big waves and big things that are happening. Remember how we predicted about 4 months ago what's going to happen? And those people who are watching us regularly, they can probably notice those events that they would not have noticed otherwise. So, yeah, if you want to have a very detailed knowledge of this war, please continue watching us.
Знаешь, как это все выглядит? Я на улицу выйти не могу, потому что я из офиса выхожу и иду куда-нибудь в магазин купить шоколадку.
So, you know how that looks from the side is that somebody says, I cannot go to the store because I did want to buy chocolate, but there's no time for me to go there. And I don't do that because I need to stay here and record it in a video interview. You know what people are telling me? We don't listen to you much, but we watch you because you calm us down. Your voice and your timbre and your manner are real nice. And I'm laughing and thinking we probably should just, read some poetry. Our voices are live and, they put people to a calm state of mind. And those poor people, 3.5 people who are you, me, and technical assistants, those are the ones who actually listen to details what's happening. It's almost like that's happening, but at the same time, it's really important that certain other things are happening. All right, so it's been almost 40 minutes. Let's see each other tomorrow at the same time, 10 p.m. Almost 415,000 listening to us. I think those 59,000 who did not come since yesterday should be ashamed of themselves. Well, come on, it's Friday, they're out and drinking. Well, arguably so. You can be out and drinking and still listen to us. All right. We'll see you all guys tomorrow at 10. Thank you, everybody. See you then.